Hey, what up, guys? In this one, we're headed to Spanish Bay with Not a Scratch Golfer, A31 Golf, and then Evan, who I met through Instagram. That being said, I did get my butt kicked, so you're going to see some relatable golf. So let's head out to the course and see how I did. All right, hole number one. The caddy told me to aim right at the sand trap that you see on the left side of the screen, and I ended up going way right here. But the fairway is actually pretty forgiving, so I'm set up okay for a layup on my second shot. So just took a 6-iron here, nothing too complicated. Just wanted to make sure I'm set up for my next shot into the green. Just took my 8-iron, flared it out a little bit to the right, but in a not so bad position for my pitch to get onto the green. So here is the chip, and it turns out to be, pretty decent. And so maybe I have, like a 7-footer or 8-footer just for my par, and I just end up missing that. So I end up getting a bogey on the first. All right, coming up next is a short par 4. You kind of be crazy to go for the green here, so I just opt for the 4-iron and lay up short onto the right. Don't hit it very far, but that's okay. This next shot still very short and manageable. Just take out the pitching wedge. Ended up going just a tad too long, and I'm in the rough just past the hole. So a little dicey little putt I had here onto the green. Just barely got it on. Almost roll it in there. So I end up with the par on the second. And I'm actually feeling pretty good at this point. All right, this next shot off the tee, there's a building on the beach way in the back. And if you aim for that and hit it 220 to 240, you should be pretty good. I try to get a cinematic shot here, and you can see Adam, not a scratch golfer, in the background. Turns out to be not that great, and I probably will never do this again. That being said, I hit it safely onto the green, and this was just a mess here. I hit the first one way past, not respecting the greens and the speed that Spanish Bay had. And then the returner, you can't really see the hole here, but just know I missed that one, and I tap in for a bogey. So bogey, par, bogey start. All right, next up is a medium length par 3. We played the white tees today, and I think that was the appropriate tees for us to play anyway. That being said, this green I barely missed off the fringe, and here's my birdie putt attempt. And yeah, just following my caddy's advice here. Barely missed. I'm letting him down, but a tap and par, I'll take that. All right, so just an example of wind here and how much it plays into distances. I hit this pretty decently, but only went 190 yards. So normally I hit it like 240, 230 to 240. And yeah, it ends up only going to 190. So this next shot, I really try to cook a 4-iron, and I pull it left into this hazard. So I just drop it, take a penalty stroke, and just get onto the green. So I have a decent length putt just to save my bogey here. And fortunately, I end up just draining it. It was a really long putt, and I'm happy to get a bogey on this hole because my caddy's read. All right, coming up next, it's a pretty fun driving hole. You just got to split the 2 bunkers that you see on the right-hand side, and it sets you up for a nice shot into the green. I end up tugging this one ever so slightly to the left, and then I end up on the fringe. But, putting from off the fringe here is pretty doable. They cut it pretty short, and here is my attempt. And yeah, I honestly thought I made this, but it ends up just being ever so slightly to the edge of the hole. And then just tapping that one in for par. So you're probably wondering what's so wrong with this round and why I said this was soul crushing. But before we get there, just going through this hole really quick. Tough driving hole. Up the left-hand side, there's hazards, and it narrows up as you get closer to the pin. My second shot, I just took a 5-iron into the wind. Didn't hit all that far. End up short left of the green. And then actually this was a really good chip. I ended up just chipping close enough to tap it in for par here. But yeah, as you can see, I'm only 4 over at this point. So you're thinking, what's wrong with this round? And this is where it begins. So I tug this shot to the left-hand side, and it doesn't cover, and I end up in the reeds. So I lose my ball in the hazard and take a drop to the right at the drop zone. This green is massive, and I just wanted to get it on, but I actually left myself a really long putt for bogey. So I'm just thinking 2-putt here, right? And so it doesn't go over this mound and release as much as I wanted to. And so I have a testy one for my double. Yeah, and I end up missing that one. So I end up tapping in for a triple because I lost one of my balls. So usually I'm pretty good about, moving on to the next hole. Out of sight, out of mind, triple bogey, who cares? Having a good time with Not a Scratch Golfer and company. Hit a really good drive, actually, and so I'm set up now to hit a good approach into the green. Unfortunately, I tugged this one to the left-hand side, and now I have this, kind of embedded rough lie, and I need to get this onto the green. But what I do instead is think too much about it, try to get too cute, and I chunk it. And then
disaster. I chunk it again, and so now I have this lengthy one for bogey, and I can't make it. So I end up going triple and then a double. So, ending the 9 with a double and a triple, 5 over, pretty tough. So moving on to the next one. So I hit a pretty decent drive here, a little bit more right than I would like, but I'm just trying to look past these past 2 holes and try to, make something happen here. So this punch shot ends up turning out pretty decent. It hits the cart path and rolls another like 50 yards, and I have a pretty close one, but I end up shanking this pine needle lie approach to the furthest part of the green, and there's a big downhill that you can't see. Got too cute and didn't even reach the downhill, so I have a monstrous putt for my second putt here. And then I end this one too far to the right, and so I have to putt again from distance. And now I'm in 4-putt territory, and guess what? That's what ends up happening. So I 4-putt, and I get another double. So mentally, not in the best scoring state after a triple and 2 doubles. So as they say in golf, a lot of it is from 150 yards in. As you can see, I'm driving the ball really well and getting off the tee pretty easily, but it's these shots that are killing me. So I end up blading this over the green, and now I'm stuck in like some deep rough past the hole, and this is a really tough shot. As you can see, my ball's a little bit embedded. I hit before the green, and it rolls up the hill, and actually in a nice little landing spot. And I have a decent one for my par. End up rolling that almost in and picking up a fantastic bogey. So I'm thinking maybe things are turning around. All right, so as you can see off the tee, no issues here. Just up the right-hand side in a little bit of rough, which unfortunately causes me to fly the green. So you're going to see it up in this next shot, but I'll have a similar chip like the last hole that's just downhill, and I need to kind of run it into the side and let it run on. Bump and run here ends up going way too far, and so I have a long one just for my par. So I'm just thinking 2-putt, I know I'm probably not going to get the par, but I end up zooming this one by. So I have a testy like 10-footer, and I end up missing this one as well. So thought I was turning things around from that great bogey, but back to the double train. All right, coming up next is a cool par 3 with issues surrounding the green everywhere. I just went in for the dead center and tried to get on, and unfortunately, I end up off to the side. And the chipping woes continue. I don't know what was going on today. I end up chunking that one short, but at least I had a good follow-up chip to where I got close enough to where I could just tap it in and pick up a bogey. So trying to turn the things around still. All right, so we're headed towards the water, which means more wind. I hit a pretty decent shot, popped it up a little bit, and it only goes 186 yards. So yeah, wind playing a big factor right now. So I end up just taking my 3 hybrid here, knowing it's going to be short and no issues. I just wanted to advance the ball. And then I hit kind of the shot of my life. So blind shot into the green, couldn't see it at all, aimed where that little target is, and it ends up being this close for my birdie. So at this point, I'm honestly just thinking 2-putt. And I just wanted to, kind of get a par back onto the card to reset. And so end up just tapping this one in for par. So happy overall just to get a par on a pretty difficult hole. All right, coming up on hole 15, lots of wind at play here. Hit the driver pretty decently here. And now I'm set up for my next shot. And yeah, unfortunately, the rough was pretty tough and hung up my club. And I go into the sand trap. And you guys know my sand trap game is awful. I end up blasting this one over the green, barely finding my ball. And so I'm in this deep stuff. I almost kill our caddy and not a scratch golfer. Luckily, the ball didn't have much velocity coming out of that rough. End up chipping on, but now I have a really long putt. And so shake my head. This is for double bogey. And I got very lucky that it didn't go too far by because I thought it would hit it really hard. And I end up tapping that in for another triple. So if there's a hole that you shouldn't miss too far off because of, surrounding hazards, it's this one, because now I'm literally on the beach. So here's my ball. You can't really see it. It's kind of fried egg. And I just tried to advance it, and it doesn't go all that far. And then I chunk it again because I'm in the same type of beach sand. And so now I'm just trying to chip on. And yeah, I don't hit it hard enough. So I have a long one again. At this point, I'm kind of frustrated. You see it through my body language. And this is for double. And yeah, I end up missing that. So back-to-back triples. So the strokes are adding up. And mentally, you know, I'm kind of losing it, and I'm 21 over at this point. But as you can see with the driver, I'm still vibing. So I popped this one up a little bit, but it ends up being pretty straight. And so I'm still in position, you know, to get onto the green. With a lot of wind here, though, I end up being short and left of it. And I'm thinking, okay, honestly, I can just settle for a bogey here. But overall, you can just tell, like from my approaches to the green and my short game, mentally, I was just, you know, not all there today. But with the super slidey putt, I actually end up making this for par, and it felt so good. So with nothing to lose and on the last hole, I go for the yeet and basically hit a really good drive, probably the best drive of the day. With some wind, I end up hitting it around 260 yards. So my caddy tells me to hit a 210-yard club, and I end up executing with the super hybrid. And yeah, I hit the front of the green, it rolls on, and I have a very short putt for eagle. All right, this one's crushing my soul, guys. But at least I'm putting for eagle. Let's go, guys. Holy smokes. So maybe thinking the golf gods would turn one in my favor. Silly of me to believe that. End up missing the eagle, tapping in for birdie. But what a rough one, but still had a good time.
All right, as you can see, yeah, I mean, didn't score terribly. I shot in the 90s, but I think what was frustrating was how I shot in the 90s. You know, did a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes that are, you know, not normal for my game. But hey, that's what golf is. You know, you're not going to play every round awesomely. You know, you're not going to get, you know, a great score everywhere you go, regardless of the venue. This time it happened to be Spanish Bay, which I think is the hardest track of the three big pebble courses. But that being said, you know, hope you guys enjoyed seeing this side of my game. Keep chasing, and I'll see you in the next one.